Hello and welcome back. Today, this is episode 57, and this is the Sanhedrin, or actually the trial of Yeshua by the Sanhedrin. So, as you may remember in the previous episodes, Yeshua was arrested with a group of soldiers, and he is now walking with the Roman soldier in direction of the building of the Sanhedrin. And he's actually walking ahead of the soldier so they don't have to drag him or, pull him or even put some shackles around him. And a small square courtyard is appearing after crossing a heavy door in the building. And a man dressed with a long black robe leads Yeshua to a large room decorated with heavy drapes. And this is where the Sanhedrin sits. And accompanied by two soldiers, Yeshua enters the room and faces the Sanhedrin. And about 40 of its members are only present, most likely due to the late hour. So this is the middle of the night, and not every member of the Sanhedrin is coming to attend Yeshua's trial. Normally, the Sanhedrin is composed of 72 members, plus the Caiapha and the Hanan, who are the head of the Sanhedrin. And in the dusk, Yeshua can see the faces of the members, and most of the people are showing exasperation, impatience, and resentment, to have to be there in the middle of the night. And they all have heavy wigs and long white beards. So it's interesting to see that the parallel between the British courts, with those white wigs, and what used to be the Sanhedrin 2,000 years before. So walking to the front of the room, Yeshua gets closer to the higher seats, and he knew who was waiting for him. Everything had been done using the Roman laws and by night to avoid all reaction from the people. And this is why they arrested Yeshua during the night, so that nobody would complain about it or try to help him. And Yeshua is looking at the Sanhedrin members, basically, and they're all dressed with dark, sumptuous robes with golden inserts. And two men are pretending to read scrolls, while fighting to remain straight. So they are probably either old or tired, and they are actually fighting to remain straight, on their chair. And Yeshua recognized them immediately. And one of them is Caiapha, and the second one is his father, the great priest. His name is Hanan, and he's the master of the Sanhedrin and his tribunal. And it's most likely when Hanan dies, the Caiapha will become Hanan, and there will be another Caiapha who is named in his place. And Hanan, the top of the hierarchy, tells Yeshua, "Get closer. What is your name?" And Yeshua responds, "You know it very well." And Yeshua knows that this answer is going to irritate them, right? And Yeshua did it for multiple reasons, but he wanted to go through this trial as quickly as possible. He knew the outcome. There was no need to beat around the bushes about it. And so Hanan is raising his chin, and Yeshua responds, "You want to know if I am the one they call the blessed one? Yes, I am him." And Hanan says, "Ah, there we are." And so at that point, the great grand priest, is adjusting his wig, is caressing his beard, and is raising his chin again. And Caiapha, next to him, is not moving or saying anything. And a few members of the Sanhedrin have a little sardonic laugh in the room. And Yeshua takes over the speech again, and he says, "Yes, there we are. What do you want to know that you do not already know?" With my answer, I think I told it all. And Hanan takes over again. Do not ironize, Rabbi. What we want to know is very simple. We want to know if you agree with the following points. First, according to certain witness, you are not respecting the Shabbat. Second point, that you are practicing some magic tricks to pretend healing sick people and simple-minded people. Third point, that you are constantly blaspheming and pretending to speak in the name of the Eternal. Fourth point, that you are going against what the priests are saying, inside or in front of the synagogues. Fifth point, we have also heard that you teach women, that you mingle with them in numbers and scandalously everywhere, even in secret places, such as the countrysides and the deserts. The next point, we have been told that you are encouraging the people on all public place to think beyond our sacred scriptures, because according to you, other scriptures would come in the future. And finally, as an ultimate blasphemy, you pretend that Yahweh, oh, may he forgive me to pronounce his name, is not the eternal, is not the nameless. Is it right? Do you agree? And Yeshua, after a little while, says, I agree with two exceptions. And Kaif says, two exceptions? Are you saying? And Yeshua noticed that Kaif's voice is more assertive and powerful than Anan's. Anan's voice is tired and lingering. I mean, the man is old, and he probably needs to be in bed instead of being in the middle of the Sanhedrin. And Yeshua responds, yes, two exceptions. I do not need to perform magic tricks when healing, since it is the Eternal that performs the healing through me. As far as the women, if you see a scandal or a shame in the fact that I teach them according to the beauty of their heart, if you all see some impurity, ask yourself if the principle of that impurity is not located behind your eyes and in the shadows of your thoughts. Saying that, Yeshua was expecting a thunder of screams, protestation, and insult. And of course, this is what is erupting from the assembly. So Kaif is readjusting his position on his chair, and he remains stoic, pretending to have a control of the situation. And Anan tries to stand up with a lot of difficulties and pain. And Yeshua noticed that his hip is the cause of his pain. So Anan is raising his arm to obtain the silence and affirm his authority. And Anan goes, I'm not going to comment your outrage, Rabbi. Is that really all you have to say? It is late, and believe me, we are not going to hesitate any longer on what is now apparently clear. And at that point, Yeshua observes intensely the old man, standing and holding himself with one hand to his seat. Was it worth arguing? In the middle of his chest, the Christic energy is palpitating, and Yeshua is doing everything to tame it, to not cheat with the pantomime that is being played in front of him. He would not heal the old great priest of his pain at the hips, to demonstrate what must not be used to prove anything. And probably also because the old man didn't deserve to be healed. Why try to convince someone who has no ears and heart to feel? Why? So furious and obstinate, Hanan is trying to make Yeshua speak by asking him all kinds of questions, all of them wicked. And Yeshua does not respond to most of them. The game was perverted, corrupted, and rigged. And Yeshua at the end says, I have nothing else to say. I am what I am, and cannot remove anything of it. And Anan says, then it is your decision. And then he invites other members to speak and ask questions. And surprisingly, only one member of the Sanhedrin raised his hand and started talking among the sarcasms of all his colleagues. And that member was a cousin of Nicodemus, and he wanted to speak in support of Yeshua, because Yeshua had in the past healed his sister from a problem at the leg that she had since she was born. So he felt like he had to say something positive about Yeshua. Unfortunately, that cousin of Nicodemus had no power in his voice, and everything he was trying to say was drowned by screams and mockeries. So, didn't do anything. And finally, Caiaphas signals two soldiers to grab and take Yeshua away. And the screams and the chaos in the Sanhedrin are diminishing, and Yeshua is returned to the group of soldiers that had arrested him. At this point, all the members of the Sanhedrin can go back to bed and sleep happily on their 2 ears. So everything had been so quick, and Yeshua was feeling that he was moving in a nightmare, whereas he was at the same time the main character and the witness. And he also receives the brief but acute certainty to have written the scenario of that story. Horrible story, but still. His always increasing attempts to say the truth, to say the life, and to say love, his lack of subordination to the decrees of humans, and the candid power of his heart could only end up in an arrestation, followed by sharp accusations. And on top of that, his decision to not respond was driven by the logic that he was carrying and bringing life in a world that was only fostering his own death. Besides, everything he could have said would have been refuted and condemned. The least he spoke, the least they could control his soul. And while walking through the narrow streets leading to the Antonia Fortress, Yeshua feels in a very strange state. It's a mix of being in full control of his capacity, but also an extreme sadness at the same time. He still had so much to give and could not find any hands to receive it. The faces, worried and asking, of his mother Miriam and his wife Miriam are coming to his mind, followed by all the ones he loves. He's thinking about their distress. What could be done? To appear in his light body? It would not be right, because it would have rigged the path they had to take in full confidence for themselves. So, the silhouette of the fortress is finally appearing. The large doors are open and closed behind Yeshua, and he finds himself in the dark in a small cell. Fortunately, a slit was open high on the wall and some fresh air was available. And Yeshua is going to sit on some hay on the ground, and he lays down to rest his body. A few tears are running in the corner of his eyes. The Christic energy was in Yeshua's chest. He could have destroyed everything at this point if he wanted, but the energy was asking him to not show anything, beside a small ray of light and a small ray of hope. And Yeshua is wondering, Elohim, what are you doing? And finally, Yeshua ends up falling asleep. His body was exhausted and his mind was visited by all kinds of sensations and images. And during the night, Yeshua is going to use his light body, and he gets out of his physical vehicle and he watches his vehicle laying on the hay. And he noticed that the bottom of the beautiful robe Yusuf gave him was torn. That was the robe that was weaved for him by the Egyptians, and that Yusuf had brought back. It was an insignificant detail when looking at his present situation. However, Yeshua had always taken care of his appearance and his clothes. He always said, The temple must be impeccable. So at what point he hears a voice calling him, and coming from far away. And so he's going to start following the thread of his name being repeated. He's still in his light body, so he can fly and move anywhere he wants. While traveling to that source, Yeshua crosses and feels the tingling of all the matters he's crossing in his light body. So while he travels to the source of the calling, he crosses through walls, he crosses through perhaps animals, even human beings, sleeping, whatever. And every time you do that in your astral body, you feel a little tingling, you feel like there is something going through you. And he's being driven to a place near the bedside where the Essenian fraternity is staying, and he sees the light of the star glowing in the sky. And there are 3 men on the ground observing the light body of Yeshua. So those men are wise people. They are capable of seeing an astral body floating and coming to them. He recognized them. They are the brothers from Heliopolis, from the land of the red dirt. And the land of the red dirt, for the audience, is basically the country of Egypt. And one of those 3 brothers is black, and we have seen his name before, is Balthazar. He is one of the 3 wise men who had helped Yeshua get his first initiation in the Great Pyramid. So again, for the people who have not attended the episodes in the chronological order, you can go back to that episode and get more details about the first initiation in the pyramids of Cheops. And Balthazar addresses Yeshua and he goes, Master, the Son of the Sons in you called us. And again, if you listen to the episode about the initiation, you will understand what it means. The Son of the Sons in you. He summoned us, and here we are. And Yeshua responds in his light body, you came to tell me, isn't it? And Balthazar said, no. Just to confirm the eminence of the very narrow passage that you chose. And Yeshua goes, and you, my brothers, what do you know that I am not yet reading in my memory? And Balthazar responds, very little in fact, because in truth, that secret is sealed in you. It is in your strength, it is in his power. You are the key master, according to the Tat and the Sat. So the Tat expresses the universe in its divine aspect, while the Sat expresses the ultimate reality, which is invisible and hidden behind what is perceived as a reality. So we, as human beings, most of us are only perceiving the Tat, what is visible. And Yeshua continues, no, it is not me. Nobody is ever. I only have the freedom, the choice to break a link of a chain in a more or less good way. And I'm praying for the more. And Balthazar responds, it is also for that we are working. You know that an exchange of letters is going on between Pilate and Rome, and it has been going on for a moon, and also between the Sanhedrin and Rome. And those 2 exchanges are fighting against each other. So I would like to make a parenthesis here to explain more what they mean. What they mean is that Pontius Pilate, the procurator of Judea, is telling Rome that Yeshua is not a threat, that he's not dangerous, and that he should not be murdered. The Sanhedrin, on the other hand, is asking Rome to conduct and do all the bad deeds for them, to arrest Yeshua, to torture him, and to crucify him. So I think it's very important that we understand that. And Yeshua asks, are they that important? I'm asking you to confide with what you know to Yusuf of Arimathea, my uncle. He knows how to navigate and can hear the intents of God in the motion of winds. And Balthazar continued, "We are not numerous, master, but we are everywhere, silent, but awake and active." And a letter was ordered by Tiberius, the emperor, cancelling the previous one that was to have you condemned. That second letter is currently on its way, being delivered to Pilate. And Yeshua continues, "My condemnation? You mean my death? Do not be afraid of the words. It is strange, my brothers. In reading you, I see that I must die and live at the same time. I'm begging you, do not cheat with life, like so many men do. Not you. A door is here. I see it. It is not only my door, and it is not also the gate from life to death. We always go from life to life. Do I have to remind you?" And at that point, Yeshua feels suddenly a shock, followed by a quick sensation of vertigo. And he is immediately back in his body, on the hay, in his cell. A brute with a short robe is kicking Yeshua's belly. So one of the guard, or whoever, basically entered his cell and seeing Yeshua asleep, is kicking him in the belly. So, of course, that had an immediate reaction to call his astral body back into his physical body. And it is so brutal that usually when it happens, you have some kind of vertigo. And the brute says, "There, it is for you," dropping a ball on the floor. "It is still not night time, but I will not have time to come back. You are lucky that it is me. By the way, what is your name?" And Yeshua tries to raise his body on his arms, and he's feeling extremely nauseous. And he asks the guard, "Why do you hit me?" And the brute responds, "That is the way of that place. If you are in this hole, you know why. It is just your robe, which is strange. It is so clean." The man is collecting the hay with his foot, trying to basically gather it in a corner of a room. And he leaves the cell after closing the heavy door. And Yeshua breathes while watching the tiny opening in the wall. So the daylight is starting to appear, and Yeshua decides to address his father and his mystery. He thinks again about his torn robe and decides to repair it. So he's going to caress the torn fabric. His hands is actually weaving the perfect fabric made by the Egyptian tailors again. And after a short while, the robe is like new again, and the torn has been completely repaired. It's impossible to see the damage. And then he's walking to the small window, and he links his soul to the three brothers of Heliopolis. And he realized that a few of those who are incarnating the plan were here in Jerusalem, answering probably to the same sacred impulse that had taken Yeshua away from the lake and to Jerusalem. He knows that multiple things are set in motion and how they dovetail. The vision of Cernunnos that we saw in a previous episode, the large buck, was a proof of that. It did not matter if the first blow was coming from the Romans or from the Sanhedrin. They both needed each other. This certainty is nourishing Yeshua, even if an abominable past was becoming more and more obvious for him. And only the Romans could sentence Yeshua to death. But before that, they had to declare him guilty of sedition, to assimilate him to the Iscaries or to some secret organization after being condemned by the Sanhedrin. As far as Judah, he only had been a tool, a pawn of his own naivety. And I think it's important that we all understand that. Judah didn't want to hurt Yeshua. He was simply a pawn, a victim of his own dreams. But all that was in the past already, since Yeshua was now in a cell. And he has always tried to talk to the feminine nature, its essence, who can feel, not judge, an essence who can forgive, who welcome, and nourishes. He had been the messengers of that energy, facing a patriarchal order and the order of the swords. And for that reason, what was in store for him was inevitable. Yeah, I think we don't have to dwell too much on that, but it's obvious that for the old Judaic practices, the women are inferior beings and they are not allowed to talk about spiritual matters. And the fact that Yeshua was trying to raise them to the same level as the man was definitely a horrible offense for those Hebraic traditions and priests. So Yeshua is going to try to communicate through his mind to his mother, to Miriam, his wife, and to his uncle, too, and Yusuf, and of course also with the Egyptian masters. And he tries to explain to them the celestial logic of what they are going through right now and what he's going through. And one day goes, followed by one night, and a second dawn arrives. And the second dawn is bringing a morning which is suffocating, temperature is very high, until the point where the low door opens up and two guards with pylon in hands come to take him. And one of the guards says, "The procurator wants to see you," using a very unpleasant and raucous voice. And then quickly one of the guards says, "Forgive me, Rabbi," because they are lying to him. And we're going to see what happened. So Yeshua is taken to a small courtyard and is tied to a large ring of metal encased in a column. So his two arms are raised above his head, his wrists are surrounded by shackles, and the metal ring is holding his arms up in the air. And Yeshua is going to wait a long time, suffering from the heat and the position, that he has. He looks at the two guards, and under their armor, they also suffer from the heat. And suddenly, the sound of a shofar comes from the temple. The shofar is that big instrument that the Jews are using for the temple rituals. And at one point, Pontius Pilate, escorted by a few soldiers, is crossing the courtyard. But Pilate pretends to adjust his drape and does not pay attention to Yeshua. He knows that Yeshua is there, tied to the column, his two arms, in the air, but he doesn't pay attention to him. And he disappears in a hallway. And the two Roman guards next to Yeshua are exasperated by the long wait, until a third one comes with a few heavy, very heavy men. Those men are wearing brown outfits, and those men are not from the Roman army. The heavy men are laughing and joking, while the Roman guards are leaving Yeshua after lowering his robe on his waist. So Yeshua understands immediately what will happen. The heavy men in brown are ironizing, and making stupid jokes about the Romans who cannot stand this heat. And one of the heavy men turns around Yeshua with a salacious look on his face, and he starts asking plenty of stupid and irrelevant questions to Yeshua. Obviously, these men were there to have fun. And since Yeshua is not responding, they start insulting him. And one of the men spits on Yeshua's face. And Yeshua, at that point, feels sadness for these beings because they are stuck in a ditch. Their meanness is due to their cruel and young souls. They were basically experimenting the state of the simple brute, nothing else. They came and they incarnated on this planet, just be a brute, And he thinks for a short time to free himself for the chain, but he decides against it. He could have done it, but for some reason, he decides to go and follow the plan, the path. And one of the men goes into a small room and comes back with a whip. And at this stage of his arrestations, the Roman did not want to be responsible for anything because they had not judged Yeshua. They could not do anything against him, but instead they had given Yeshua to those Jewish butchers who were going to take care of it. Yeshua realized that he's going to be tortured by these men and feels a strong fear invade his body and his mind. He was not prepared for that. So a first blow is given. Yeshua screams and his knees are giving up. His kidneys are feeling as if they had been split in two. And the men hit Yeshua a second and a third time. And Yeshua can only moan as no scream can come out of his throat by lack of air. He hears the men laugh, and Yeshua understands that they are taking turns to beat him. His face is stuck against the stone of the column, hanging from his arm, attached to the ring in the column. His legs refusing to hold his body at this point. So he's hanging from his arms. The men are hitting him a few more times, and Yeshua loses consciousness because of the pain and the atrocity of what he's going through. He comes back to his sense after a while, and he's laying on the ground with the vision of the sandals of his tormentors. He tries to pronounce the name of Hawun, with no success. A horrible taste is in his mouth. They are lifting him up as the Romans are coming back to the scene. Surprisingly, right after they are coming back. They take him back to his cell after throwing some water on his face. And Yeshua is going to stay laying on his belly until the next day. He's unable to move his body. Half conscious, he can only pray or actually fall into a state where no words can come out of his mouth. And there was no revolt, no anger in him. He just wanted to understand. Why, Father? Why? And around noon, the following day, he managed to stand up again. His robe is glued to his back due to the coagulated blood. He was too weak to even remove it. And at that point, he's going to try to heal himself a little bit. So he decides to recite a mantra that was taught to him by Master Lyamas when he was in India. It was a mantra used to call the energy of Shiva Shankara, a mantra to heal and regenerate the body. So as the sound of the mantra is heard, Yeshua's body slowly recovers breath and suppleness. He also cries. His flesh is eliminating the excess of pain and suffering through his tears. And again, he addresses his father, Awun, Father, why? Yes, why? Do you also need blood? And the rest of the day is spent reciting mantras and some exercises to regain a little bit of strength. And the sentinel, bringing his food, only came once. He told Yeshua that someone had tried to see him, but the request had been denied. And Yeshua thinks it's probably either my uncle Yusuf or one of the brothers from Heliopolis who tried to come and see me. He could have found out. Asking the Christic energy, he would have got an answer, but he preferred to trust in his destiny. After all, it did not make any difference who came for him. And going through this horrible situation, there was only one attitude that he could have, is to love whatever could happen. And during the night, a guard enters his cells brutally and tells Yeshua, "Come on, stand up. We are taking you." And so we will see in the next episode where they are taking him. I mean, some of you probably know. There will be a last judgment, this time by the Romans, and we will be covering that in the next episode. So thank you for your attention, and we'll see you soon.